Good morning. We're live this morning with Dan Harvey. Dan, the real estate man. Welcome to the live Saturday Q&A.
All right, thank you for having me, Maria. Appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you today. We're going to get right into it today. Strategies for investing in today's market.
Okay.
Dan, we know that it's a tough environment out there, but there are ways we can take advantage and use that to the best of our ability. So let's dig in on that this morning. And what are some things that we can go ahead and do in our real estate investing business?
Great. Yeah, so I think the first thing that you have to do is actually acknowledge that this is a different market and understand that we had a long period where we had a lot of factors that just worked out well and was very advantageous. And so we're in a different place now, and you need to be willing to pivot. So I'll use myself as the example. So I'd say up till about the beginning, first quarter 2022, I was utilizing a strategy called multi-family conversions, which simply means I would find properties or lots that had advantageous zoning, and I would convert them into a commercial multifamily property by right, which just means I didn't have to go through the variance process. I didn't have to go through all that. It was what I could do by right. And these projects generally took 12 to 18 months from purchase to finish, right? What I realized once the Fed said they were going to keep raising rates was like, okay, as part of this process, I need to be able to model, right? Which just means I need to have a fairly decent idea of what the rates are going to be at the end of the project, so I know if it makes sense to start the project, right? So I stopped doing those projects because I felt like, well, there's no way I can model this out because the Feds are just saying they're going to keep raising rates until inflation comes down. Who knows what that number would be. So I stopped doing those sort of projects, and what I moved into was just more projects that I felt were projects that I could get done in a shorter time frame, and was a lot simpler project. So instead of me doing a conversion, I'm buying a single family and turning it into a commercial property, buying a warehouse, turning it into a commercial multifamily property. I was buying existing commercial multifamily properties that just needed some rehab, and I could turn them over quickly. So one of the point of this is that you want to, number one, be aware of where the market is and make changes, right? And don't be stuck on what was working years ago, right? And as far as I'm concerned, right now, I went from I was accumulating a lot of properties and projects to now being more of a kind of a sniper. When really, really good deals come up, deals that make a lot of sense, I'll buy those deals. In the meantime, I want to make sure what I have is stabilized.
So pivoting from one asset class to another, something that you already had experience in because you were doing fix and flips prior to getting into the commercial multifamily space, correct?
Yes, I was. And that's a good point, which I really didn't touch on, is I got back into now doing fix and flips. So I'm still purchasing, still buying commercial multifamily properties. I'm just not building them out from, say, changing them from single family and turning them into a commercial multifamily. I'm looking for existing commercial multifamily properties, especially from investors that are going through a lot of pain. They need to get rid of them quickly. And one of the keys to that is just having access to funding. So the deals that I've closed were deals from investors that needed to close within 30 days. So having access to funding, really quick funding that I could get deals done quickly, and then pivoting back to doing flips until there's, as far as I'm concerned, just the market is more stable as far as prices people are selling properties for, and interest rates where it just makes sense to go back to what I was doing previously.
What do you think that rate is for it to make sense?
So I don't necessarily think it's a rate thing, right? I think it's more of a total market um, thing, for lack of a better word. And what I mean by that is I can make a deal work at 8% if you sell it to me at the right price.
So as we go back to the same thing that I've been saying in the industry that I've been in for 20 years, but it's all about buy right. You make all your money on the buy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you know, there is a delay between what's happening in the market and how people perceive the market. So what I mean by that is if I purchased a property that I did a conversion on, let's say I bought this one property for $100,000 because it made sense because rates were at 5%. Right, when I finish. If I buy the neighbor's property, right, who is not a full-time investor, they're just Johnny selling their home person. So they're going to expect to sell their property for $100,000 in their mind because the neighbor sold their property for $100,000, but the rates were at 5%. So I can't buy your property now at the same price. I need to buy your property for say $75,000, and I think that's a hard pill for sellers to swallow, right? And they at first they think, oh, you're just trying to take advantage of me or something like that. But what happens is they'll put their house or property on the market and it'll sit because all the experienced investors are like, well, it doesn't make sense any longer to buy your property at that price because all these other conditions have changed. So once sellers get into their mind, okay, I missed the boat of the $100,000 sale, right? I'm just using that as an example. I need to now sell at $75,000, $60,000. Once they can get that through their head, then that's when you can get back to doing those same projects.
And that's a big haircut. You're asking people to understand that it's 25 to 35% less to make a deal work.
It is, but that's the reality. It's not necessarily what I'm asking. It's with the market. It's with the market.
I know, Dan. I'm not trying to beat you up.
I know. I'm just sort of explaining to people. The only people, especially in this market, is you have to ask yourself, why would you even take the risk, right? Unless your investing strategy is totally different. For most investors, your goal is to make a return. So why would I take the risk, especially in this market where we have factors that are not as advantageous as it was in previous years? So there's a lot of reasons why I think investors are being much more conservative, right? We haven't even gotten into the lending piece of it outside of interest rates, right? Banks are tightening their credit criteria. It has nothing to do with interest rates. It's just the way that lenders feel about the market. So you have to, number one, be certain that once you're finished this project, that you're able to refinance. So there's some other pieces to the puzzle that sellers don't necessarily think about, and I understand that, but that's the reality. And the other thing, and I was having this conversation, if your mindset is, well, I'm going to sell for this $100,000 no matter what, okay, fine, that's your idea, I'll wait. You have to ask yourself, is $100,000 better 5 years from now, or is $70,000 cash better now? That's a real question. Is it better to have that $70,000 cash now or $100,000 5 years later? Because you can invest the $70,000 now. You can't do anything with the future money until you receive it. So these are questions I think people have to ask themselves. And I get it. That's sort of the way my mind works. Not everybody's minds work like that, but that's
I mean, that's how it is. It's like people say, well, my house was worth this last year. Okay, but you didn't sell it last year, and your house isn't worth anything unless it actually sells. Exactly. So it's worth whatever it's worth to you, but it's not. You can't cash out on that until you dispose of that asset.
Yes.
So it's what the market will bear today. We can't go back 6 months. We're only looking at what's happening in real time.
Mhm.
And real time is what's happening right now in showings. That's real time. Pendings aren't even real time because that's already happened, unless it's just happened in the last week.
Mhm.
But it is very, I would say, volatile.
Mhm.
It's extremely, and you really need to understand the area you're investing in,
Mhm.
the absorption rate, the inventory coming online, how fast the inventory goes offline,
Mhm.
and shadow inventory, which people don't take into consideration.
Now, what is that? I'm not familiar with that term. What is shadow
So
inventory?
shadow inventory is all the inventory that is available to buy and not currently active on the market. So I'll
So,
give you an example in residential real estate sales, right? So any condo building that's being built, they have like 2 properties that are on the market on the live on the MLS, but there's 150 units in the building,
I got it. Yeah.
right? Same thing with residential lease ups. So they're not going to put a 300 unit building, all 300 units online. There's only going to be a couple. So you don't really understand the full effect unless you're doing, if you contact some of the larger commercial shops. They have the numbers on the number of units that are coming online, but they're never are all online because they don't physically do that. So
That makes.
there's much more inventory than people are aware of.
Mhm.
So you really need to understand, like the market index right now out of 100 is about a 52.
Mhm.
So what does that mean? A 90, 89 to 109 is steady.
Mhm.
Anything under 89 to um, is slow. And
Mhm.
then anything under 70 is limited.
Mhm.
And we're in limited right now. So there's limited. So there's less showings. That's a factor of a couple things. One, low inventory,
Mhm.
and 2, less demand combined.
Less.
So
What was that last piece?
less demand combined.
Okay.
So the combination of less demand and low inventory makes the index 52 right now. So
Mhm.
that means that selling a property, your numbers really need to be tightened up. And if you want to sell today, it has to be at a number that's going to cause a buyer to put forth an offer right away. And then in other areas, like let's just say the Pennsylvania suburbs of the metro market, single family homes, there's still limited inventory of them. The people that are selling them are mainly empty nesters who are retiring, either locally or elsewhere, and job relocations. There's not a lot of other inventory that's moving hands in those areas. So it's extremely competitive, and there has to be a strategy to be able to secure one of those properties.
Got it. Do you think that the rates dropping? It seems like rates have dropped over the past week or two. Do you think that's going to encourage people to get back out in the market?
We haven't seen inventory, we haven't seen showing demand go up yet.
Mhm.
We also, we're in the middle of a Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah.
So I suppose some people are away visiting family and others have family in town. So that could limit showings. Usually, also the last week of the month is slower on showings because agents are closing files.
Mhm.
You learn all this, the cadence of the business, right? Over many, many, many 20 years of 12 months
Mhm.
of studying it. So we have to see what happens in the first week in December.
Yeah, but in your opinion, outside of what you've seen, do you believe that it will bring more buyers into the market?
I don't think that we're at a point where it's going to cause it to go dramatically up.
Okay, so maybe some, but nothing.
Yeah. I mean, one thing about buyers buying homes in December, Dan, is that anybody who's looking for a home in December is extremely serious.
Mhm.
You're not just going to look at properties, there's plenty of other things to do.
Yeah.
Shopping, baking cookies, events. I have an event like almost every day in December,
Mhm.
but there is plenty to do in December. So if you are looking for a property, house to buy or investment, you're serious.
Yeah.
And so there may be less activity, but we always do deals in December. A lot of people think December's an off month. It actually is an off month because less people are working is part of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like a combination. Less people working, so less showings. Less buyers in the market because there's other things to do. But the ones that are looking are the most serious and probably the most serious out of any other time of the year.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. And if you have a property to sell and you actually, if it's not an investment and if it's a home, homes look great during the holidays. I mean, they're warm, right? You get that sense of feeling of family and people buy an emotion, justifiable logic.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you are doing a fix and flip, like creating something that's comforting in the home this time of year. Now we virtually stage all of ours to make it look, but that you only could do so much of that, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe we'll add a Christmas tree and I'll try that. I'll say to my marketing team, put some Christmas trees in there, put a wreath on the door. We'll
Yeah.
see if I'll let you know how that comes about.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I've always been wary about listing anything during this time uh, of year. Generally, I'll just wait till
So
I.
that's a misconception because what happens is a lot of other people, Dan, are like you too. They want to wait. The problem with waiting is that then everybody comes on the market in mid January.
Mhm. Yeah. So they have all this additional competition.
Right. So you have like a month of less competition
Mm.
than you would. So
Yeah.
you have plus you also have people relocating in January for corporate jobs. So they're looking in December for homes, either to rent or to buy.
Mhm.
So we also get a lot, like literally January and February, we get a lot of closings that are of people moving here from other places.
Got it. Yeah. No.
So if and the thing is, for an investment property, it's always able to be shown, right? Because it's vacant. But if you own the property and you're living in it, we can also restrict showings that work for like if you're having family event or baking cookies or whatever. But put the property out there.
Mhm.
Make sure that people know about it and not wait until after the holidays. Because
Mhm.
if we have a bad snow, January, February,
Yeah.
then
Yeah. It gets tough.
we're 2-3 months down the pipe,
Mhm.
right? So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of programs right now for buyers that qualify based on that themselves and the house.
Mhm.
So there's the program where if it's in a majority minority area, there's $10,000 grant. There's a $10,000 Philly first, and they can be married together.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like this is the time, and this is kind of goes back to the strategy also in the market is obviously you have a ton of experience and knowledge. And if this sort of thins out the herd, for lack of a better word, and sort of the people with the best strategies rise to the top. So even when I'm talking to investors, like, well, is this a good time? I'm like, well, you actually have this may be one of the best times. You have a lot of investors sitting on the sidelines. You have investors that were really busy when things were really good that are going through some pain right now. So they're kind of on the sidelines until they work through, a lot of their funnel of projects that maybe they're looking to either sell them off or looking to refinance or whatever the case is. So I feel like as a strategy that's also, kind of a point is like you now have less people. Like I'm seeing deals come online that's starting to make sense. And it's sitting on the market for a little while, and people actually getting a lower price than what it was listed for, which we weren't seeing in God knows how many years previously. It would even make it to the MLS, honestly, right? Years ago, it would have been sort of a pocket listing, but now I'm seeing deals come on. So do you think that how are you saying that work out as a strategy for agents and for investors?
I think it's a great time. I think it's the same thing as buying a house. You can make offers. Look, if you're an investor, let's put offers in. We just put for one investor yesterday, I think we wrote 11 offers. right? He's like, make offers on these properties. We have we have like a formula too. And also we have a lot of a long rope. So we control, the situation. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, and you don't have to just go off market. It could be on market. I think that, in any market, there's money to be made. And I agree. You really do need to know what you're doing today. Doing a few deals a year, or making it, you have another job, you're a school teacher or whatever. No offense to anybody who has another job, but this isn't the market for that. You really need to. I mean, I'm working like, I do videos every day. I'm working like 11, 12 hours a day, Monday to Friday, Saturdays, like 4 to 5. Sundays I'm off. That's my go to church and regroup type. But you really need to really focus and hunker down.
Yeah.
And this is the time when, if you do those things and you take the action, regardless if you're on the sales side or investment side, you will come out on top, and you will be
Yeah.
able to grow your business.
Yeah. I agree. What happens is a lot of times the fear and it causes people to pause up and do nothing. And it's like, no, now is the time, like I was saying, since there's less people investing, or maybe even less agents, now is the time to really separate yourself from everybody else. Get focused. One other strategy that I would recommend, especially since I'm talking more from the investor side, is for investors to look at their portfolio and really see what properties are actually making you money, right? And maybe start to sell off properties that don't make a lot of sense, right? Especially in Philly, since they've raised taxes a ton. I've had some of my property taxes that have quadrupled, which is insane. Insurance has gone up. So you have to really ask yourself, does it make sense to hold on to these properties, or should I take that property, sell it, and use the money to take advantage of opportunities that we're coming into in this market? Because I do think over the next year, as the pain gets a little bit deeper, we're going to start seeing more and more deals.
Absolutely. I agree. I think
cash.
if you bought something, say, for whatever, I don't know, a single family, you have a portfolio, whatever you paid, it wasn't a lot. And now it's worth 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount. Why don't you take that, reinvest it, and be able to buy these properties much cheaper than you would have been able to buy them? And know that, real estate over time, if you look over a 40-year time period, right, on average, it goes up about 3% a year.
Yeah.
So we were in an unprecedented time over the last decade. I'd say from 2011 mid-year till, well, just to I guess the end of last year when rates started to go up. So we had about 11 years or so run. And a lot of people got away from, money was cheap, right? So deals could work regardless of even your ability to, how do I say this?
You're trying to be nice, Marie. I see.
I'm trying to be nice. The market was, how about this? The market was kind to many.
Absolutely. And
your mistakes got covered up by the market. But you can't hide anymore. Somebody said it's like when the ocean goes in, you see whose pants are down, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely true. That's what we've seen. A lot of people, as we know, were utilizing the burst strategy, and unfortunately, I think that, well, fortunately and unfortunately, is that the market worked, and I don't think a lot of people were analyzing the deals or modeling them really on the back end. And so, interestingly enough, I had made some videos in 2022 when the Fed started raising rates, and I was like, Burr's dead. And the reason why I did like a 3-part video on this, and the reason why I made the video wasn't really for seasoned investors because I know that they sort of understand it and they can pivot. But for newer investors, like you get into this rhythm and everything is moving. You're like, well, I'm going to buy 2, 3 more properties. You're not paying attention to these macro factors that you cannot control. Once the feds are telling you, hey, we're raising rates, if you're not in your mind thinking, hey, okay, I'm buying this property, what are the rates going to be, say 5, 6 months later, and is this deal going to make sense? And you see a lot of, I know you're getting more calls because you're on the sell side of it. On the investor side, I'm getting investors calling me with deals that they're stuck in because they can't refinance. They don't have enough cash to leave money into the deal. The deal no longer makes sense. And so that's a whole other, I don't know what's going to happen with that bucket of real estate where investors can't finish them. I see people starting to put them on the market now. They're 50% finished, 60% finished, 70% finished, right? But a lot of these investors are operating with the idea they're trying to get their money back. I'm like, you can forget that. That's not a real strategy. That's not the other investors' problem.
It's correct. And they're not going to get the money back. They're going to have to take a loss, a big haircut. I mean, it's part of investing. Mm-hmm. I hear people, and a lot of investors, and I say this, whine, complain to me about there's no money left. I don't have this. And it's like, no offense, but it's not my problem.
Yeah.
My problem is to solve your problem, which is to move this asset. Okay. And it's funny because people expect like me to feel sorry for them. I don't look, real estate is a risk, mm-hmm. right? I'm a facilitator. I'm a broker. I broker deals. I put buyers and sellers together and I get paid to do it. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I'm not going to sit and rely on just like the MLS. I'm happy to do deals with other brokers. However, I will find a buyer for this asset, mm-hmm. but I can't worry about what you paid, what you spent. It's not my problem. And I don't mean to sound harsh about that, but this is a business and you're hired me to solve a problem, which is to get this asset off of your books.
I don't think that's harsh at all. I think that's the conversation people need to hear.
Well, it's a lot of emotions going, right?
I mean,
especially for more inexperienced.
It sucks to lose money, but I have a saying, and I've been saying it for a long time. If you're going to lose quickly. If you're going to lose. The worst thing you can do is stretch that loss out. Well, let's price it here. Why? Nobody's going to buy it. And all that's going to happen is all of that interest is going to keep accruing, right? You're going to expose yourself.
Tax, water bill.
And you're going to expose yourself to people breaking into the property. You're going to expose yourself to a lot of things. So like, listen, lose the money quickly. Because here's the other thing, is the longer you're holding on to that property, it's keeping you from getting into, generally speaking, all depending on how large of an investor, it's most likely keeping you from getting into your next deal. Because number one, you can't think because you're stressed out, right? But also you may not have the capital. So you just need to get out of that deal. You may recoup some funds and move. And if you don't, at least you can stop paying money into that deal and move on to your next winning deal.
Yeah. Don't throw, what's that saying? Don't throw good money after bad money.
After bad.
Right.
Yes. And what you're telling them is, because sometimes I have to be sort of, I don't call it a therapist, but I have to be that person that's going to tell them straight. Because people call me to partner on these deals. I'm like, there's nothing to partner on. There's no money there. All I'm going to be doing is putting my money into a deal that's going to lose money. So here's some options, right? I give them options, sell it for a loss, go to your lender, see if they'll just take the property back, and don't do a foreclosure.
Deed in lieu.
A deed in lieu. They're like, oh, you can do that? Yes, absolutely.
Give the property back to the bank. And now we're working with some banks because we're able to either move that asset as a retail or as an REO.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities here. I honestly, with your shadow, what you call a shadow inventory.
Yes,
there's a lot of hard money lenders right now that are going to be taking back a lot of real estate because I have these investors calling me and they've extended, and there's really not an option. There's not a profitable option anyway for the investor. and they're kind of stuck on what to do.
There isn't. I mean, a deed in lieu is probably, unless they JV them with them on it, which probably no money there. The money's probably already gone
Yeah.
at this point. So you want to get out as quickly as possible. I see, driving around the city, I see lots of properties unfinished. It's just a period of time before they start to come to the market, either as them trying to get out of it, or we have people that will pick up these properties. So that's one of the things right now. That's why it's important, if you don't have the cash sitting around, or you can't get the funding, sell some of your assets. Some of the ones that you described, Dan, that just maybe they don't make a lot of money and maybe they're a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Because the amount of brain damage that can be done with some of these assets.
That's funny. That is verbatim the term I use: brain damage. That's my non-financial term. I look at my portfolio and say, how much brain damage is this property give? Is it even worth it? I'm numbers driven, right? And most of the real estate that I purchased or built, I won't say no, that's not true. A lot of the residential stuff, I don't have a problem selling, because there's not that difficult for me to go out there and buy a triplex, a duplex again. Now there's some real estate that's hard to like recreate, and I would be hard pressed to sell that, just because long term I know it's going to make a lot more sense. But outside of that, and understanding, it's painful right now, but that's a part of the process. And you want to be on that other side. You want to be prepared, not just be on the other side. You want to be prepared. And so what that means is you may have to do some things you don't want to do. Just to bring it back to the topic here about strategies, you may have to do some things like selling some assets, raising capital is not something that you don't want to do. You should be doing that all the time. But you want to have some of your own capital, get yourself into a position that once we get, back to that, bottom of the market again, or not even bottom of the market, where the opportunities start to come up, you can take advantage of those deals.
And we're coming to that. It's happening now. And I think it's going to be, over the next couple of years, there'll be a lot of opportunities coming available, probably in a 24-month cycle or so. Yeah.
And I think in between there, then and now and then, there's going to be opportunities, like just sniper opportunities. Like, hey, I need to get out, right? I don't care about making any money. If you can close in 30 days, and if you can pick those deals up and just be ready for when things are really good. Because I started investing heavily in 2010, 11. I had no idea. I was new at the time, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And my W-2 income was my main source of income. But if I knew what I know now, oh my goodness, the opportunities that were there, it was just amazing. If we can get anywhere near that, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But there's going to be some opportunities, because you have to flush out all of this pain some way, somehow, with deals and capital that needs to get back out there again. So I just being prepared strategy wise, making sure you have access to funding, and pivoting and building those relationships with people like you, so that when deals come, you're top of mind.
Absolutely. It's really important that you have your network tied up right now, tied in tight. Who you can go to. You have your team of people. It's a great time to, like, I'm reaching out. Like, we hadn't talked for a little bit. I reached out. I had other things, going on or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I remember, you remember where we met?
No, where?
At that place in Old City, like second story. It was at the real estate investing conference, happy hour. And we
Mhm.
We originally met on Facebook,
Yeah.
but then we went to that event, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Maria Quattro," and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I know you from Facebook," and this and that. It was the who had that event? It was like the kickoff to a real estate conference that they had.
Oh, was that the one that Dave Van Horn was having?
Yes.
The one that Dave Van Horn, yeah. That was actually a really good event. I wish you brought that back. But yeah. I do remember that. That's the good thing about social media. Well, one of the things is you do feel like you kind of get to know people. And I tell people all the time, you should be really utilizing social media as part of you should be branding yourself, being very clear. And this is for buyers too. You should be very clear about what you're looking for. So that way agents, brokers, wholesale, they know what to bring you, right? And they don't have to just kind of throw things at the walls. Like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm buying. You're showing people. It's such a major tool. And if you're not utilizing social media at this point, like, I don't know what to tell you. It's a major tool.
It's an amazing tool. We get to talk to people, could be anywhere watching us right now, Dan. They can re-listen later.
Mm-hmm.
But this was fun. I'm glad we got to talk today about strategies for investing in today's market. And we'll bring you back next year, Dan, for another Q&A.
Right.
And anybody, if you want to get in touch with Dan or I, just drop your info there, and we'll reach out to you. If you have any questions for either of us, let us know.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. Have a great rest of your holiday weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great one.